The last lecture for this class that I'm recording all of these for is an extra credit assignment. Now, if you're watching this video and it's not in the summer of 2023, you might find in Canvas that this is a required assignment. So again, this all has been recorded. All of these lectures have been recorded for the summer of 2023. So there might be some things in the future that might be added in. There might be some things in the future that, say in this case, where the extra credit assignment is actually something that is required, and there might be a different extra credit assignment. So just kind of keep that in mind to whoever I'm speaking to in the future from my beach apartment in Long Beach here in the summer of 2023. Things might not be exactly like I feel like I have been speaking to my class in 2023 here, but I'm going to use these lectures in the future. Hopefully, these lectures will be relevant, that I will be really old and decrepit, and the only fairly old and decrepit me will still be here in front of you, even though I have decayed and perhaps am not as mentally sharp as whatever I got left now. So I want to talk about cryptocurrency, AI, NFTs, and ChatGPT. When I initially, in December of 22, put this together, ChatGPT wasn't on my radar. And of course, in 2023, it's everywhere. I want to talk about where it is in 2023. And again, everything that's going on here is happening now. And the technologies, they're getting better. And I think I learned not to disregard technology too early and blow it off. And I learned this when I was a kid and I played competitive chess in fifth and sixth grade and played it in high school. And I remember I got a very early chess computer game. And that first chess computer game, I kicked its ass. That machine on its best day could not handle me. And I was like, okay, computer chess, nothing to worry about. Well, over the last several decades, I probably couldn't last 20 moves with a chess computer. I haven't played in a long time, but, the greatest players in the world can't beat chess computers today. So when I look at ChatGPT and I go, hey, it doesn't really write a great paper, I think what it does is it has the possibility of being decent at writing an outline, but it doesn't do specifics very well. It outright makes things up or hallucinates, as they call it. And, there have been limitations in early AI in programs like Midjourney where it could do perfectly realistic illustration beyond what a human being can do as an illustrator, but it couldn't count how many fingers that a person should have on their hand and, made other strange decisions too. I suspect that those things are going to be either ironed out, or recently the newest version of Photoshop has an AI function. And I think what that's automatically inviting you to do is to make something in AI, and then whatever it fouls up, you fix it in Photoshop. Their stocks have risen because of this as well. Anyway, let's get into this. So this lecture is kind of part of a series of lectures on objectless art and monetization. I get into things like conceptual art in our last lecture. So we're looking at NFTs, AI-made art, with a grounding in Roland Barthes, who we studied early in the class, and the concept of the quantification of quality, treating differences in kind as differences in degree. Myth measures reality by numbers, not by quality. And the quantification is summed up as economizing culture. And he gives us an example of theater, which is supposed to be viewed as an incredible form of art where people can truly relate to characters and plot. However, this quality of reality and the essence of theater, it is possible to create a business in theater. The cost of the ticket, the best actors, luxurious stage sets, all examples in how this wonderful art form is monetized. And since the pandemic, theaters are closing across the country because people have been less interested in seeing live theater other than musical theater. And certainly, people are more interested in seeing films like superhero movies, films that have, $100 million budgets and make $400 or $500 million, and the kind of meritorious art film that only a few people are interested in is dying because there's no way to finance it. We are looking at an image of an NFT from the Board Monkey Yacht Club, and we're going to get into some NFTs here. And what I want to share with you is a restaurant in Long Beach, a couple of blocks away from where I live, that is funded and based on NFTs. Well, I don't know if it's funded, but it is definitely NFT themed, and they paid a lot of money for the rights for the NFT. So again, what is objectless art? Objectless art is conceptual art where the idea is more important than owning some object, like Solowitz's drawings that did not need to be drawn by him, but were simply directions that could be executed anywhere. So sometimes art is about not the preciousness of the object, but sometimes in the case of this Baldessari here, the kind of worthlessness of the object. The nondescript photographs that he is appropriating, those cheap little dots that he is putting over the faces and other important areas in the photograph to kind of subvert whatever meaning was originally in the photographs. That was also the object in land art, was a kind of Marxist, let's get money out of the galleries and we will make art in the landscape that can't be easily bought or sold. Andy Goldsworthy is an artist that does this. And then, of course, Alan Kaprow's Happenings, which turns into performance art and social practices and tactical media and things today. He is interested in the performative aspects of art and scripting events where audience and performers are part of the art rather than simply passive observers. Okay, so that's kind of the grounding in, what justifies this stuff as art, right? So cryptocurrency, I have seen a boom and a bust in cryptocurrency in the last couple of years. I don't know what the future of cryptocurrency is, but I do know that governments like China want to have no more paper or physical money and have all of the money that is virtually traded, which of course allows them to spy on the population and find out what the population is spending. Does the population have too much money? They can wipe out your accounts very easily. And this also means that there's no such thing as working for cash in trying to subvert, say, paying taxes. Certainly something in America that many people engage in. I'm assuming a fairly large amount of the American population working for cash as a way to kind of keep the government out of it. So cryptocurrency is a digital payment system that doesn't rely on banks to verify transactions. This is kind of a libertarian idea that banks and big companies get in the way and government gets in the way. Now, let's be honest, though, that means also if things go wrong or you lose your money, that there's nobody held responsible for it. And that's the one thing about banks is that you have the FDIC, your money is federally insured in case that bank closes. And we've seen in the last year a few banks closing. So the first decentralized cryptocurrency was Bitcoin. It is released as open source software in 2009. There are 9,000 other cryptocurrencies in the boom happening in 2022. And again, a number of these businesses have tanked, and everyone who invested in them lost all of their money. So this has the roots in libertarian free market ideals with distrust or disdain for government and a dream of disrupting central banks. So it receives its name cryptocurrency because it uses encryption to verify transactions. This means advanced coding is involved in storing and transmitting cryptocurrency data between wallets and public ledgers. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, NFTs, are cryptographic assets on a blockchain with unique identification codes and metadata that distinguish them from each other. Unlike cryptocurrencies, they cannot be traded or exchanged at equivalency. This differs from fungible tokens like cryptocurrencies that are identical to each other and therefore can serve as a medium for commercial transactions. NFTs have the potential for several use cases. They are ideal as a vehicle to digitally represent physical assets like real estate and artwork. Because they are based on blockchains, NFTs can also work to remove intermediaries and connect artists with audiences or for identity management. NFTs can remove intermediaries, simplify transactions, and create new markets. Much of the current market for NFTs is centered around collectibles, such as digital artwork, sports cards, and rarities. Perhaps the most hyped space is the NBA Top Shot, a place to collect non-fungible tokenized NBA moments in a digital card form. Some of these cards have sold for millions of dollars, kind of like how Topps trading cards and the trading card market has operated in the collectible field. So the bottom image on the left is a group of NFTs by digital artist Beeple and sold for over $69 million. Basically, Beeple is a digital artist who every day is refining his skill in digital art and animation, and then each one of his experiments was up for sale as a group, 5,000 individual images and videos that are now owned by a single entity for $69 million. So no galleries, no intermediate. It is simply the artist and whoever bought this. How do NFTs work? So each token has a distinct identification tied to a single Ethereum address. Ethereum is a form of cryptocurrency, and my suspicion, and others' suspicions, is that the whole reason NFTs work is to justify Ethereum as a cryptocurrency. So they are not replaceable one-to-one with other tokens. One Ethereum, for example, is identical to another Ethereum. However, with NFTs, there are different values. Each token has a unique owner whose identity can be easily verified, and you can identify the previous owners of NFTs. They are based on Ethereum and may be purchased or traded for any Ethereum-based NFT exchange. So what you might find is that you might be able to, when you buy this NFT from whoever you buy it from, you can see on the blockchain who the previous owners are. And this can be maybe the case also in cryptocurrency, that maybe some cryptocurrency is worth more than other cryptocurrency. Let's say, for example, somebody famous like Elon Musk owned the Bitcoin before you. You might be able to make a case that possibly that Bitcoin is worth a little bit more because it was once owned by Elon Musk. And I think maybe we could say the same thing about NFTs as well. So, blockchain and fungibility. Like physical money, cryptocurrencies are usually fungible from a financial perspective, meaning that they can be traded or exchanged one for another. For example, one Bitcoin is always equal value to another Bitcoin or given exchange, just like every dollar bill of US currency has an explicit value of $1. The fungibility characteristics makes cryptocurrency suitable as a secure medium of transaction in the digital economy. However, because of blockchain's ability to store and publicly communicate transaction history, not every token or coin of a given cryptocurrency is the same. And again, I just kind of gave you an example of that, similar to how in 1944, the US steel wheat penny is only worth a penny, but collectors will pay thousands, maybe tens or hundreds of $1,000s for that penny. For this reason, NFTs shift the crypto paradigm by making each token unique and irreplaceable, thereby making it impossible for one non-fungible token to be equal to another. They are digital representations of assets and have been likened to digital passports because each token contains a unique non-transferable identity to distinguish it from other tokens. They are also extensible, meaning you can combine one NFT with another breed, a third unique NFT. Examples of some NFTs. So, one of the early examples of NFTs were CryptoKitties. Launched in November 2017, they are digital representation of cats with unique identifications on the Ethereum blockchain. Each kitty is unique and has a price in Ether. They reproduce amongst themselves and produce new offspring, which have different attributes and valuations compared to their parents. Within a few short weeks of their launch, cryptocurrencies racked up a fan base that spent $20 million worth of Ether to purchase, feed, and nurture them. Some enthusiasts spent upwards of $100,000 in that effort. The bottom image, Bored Ape Yacht Club. NFT collection is created by 4 friends who set out to make some dope apes, test their skills, and try to build something ridiculous. Bored Ape NFTs, like other NFTs, created and used for digital art purposes, aim to provide its owners an original artwork. So this is a way that you can effectively sell digital artwork without it being copied directly and having worth. Instead, this only has worth if you are the owner of it through the blockchain. So they have made it clear that NFT holders have full commercialization rights to their ape. So whoever owns one of their bored apes can spin it into film, music, TV, book, media. Not like normally when artists sell an artwork, there are limited rights. You can't just take somebody's painting and then use that painting for illustrations for books and then make money off of it. But in the case of this particular NFT, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, that is exactly what the owners have done, which make them a little bit more valuable by doing that. NFTs in the real world. So here in Bored and Hungry, which is on Junipero and 7th Street, it was in a old Popeye's chicken that had bulletproof glass. When you bought chicken there, you had to exchange your currency behind about a foot of bulletproof glass. It maybe is an idea of possibly how dangerous it was to buy chicken there. That restaurant closed, and then one day I drove by, And I saw this signboard in Hungary. I saw these apes. I did not yet know what the Bored Ape Yacht Club was. I was just kind of inspired by this pop up. I didn't know if this was a pop up gallery, but it turned out that it is a hamburger. It's a hamburger restaurant, very good hamburgers, that is owned by Andy Wynn. Andy Wynn bought the NFTs and then used the NFTs for the Bored and Hungry store. There were lines around the block when it first opened. I haven't seen it open for quite some time, so I don't know even if it's still in business. There was no seating inside, no chairs inside, simply a place to order on a very limited menu. And then we had examples of apes, a painted floor, a painted bar in the background. It's really a scene. I really thought this was very, very cool. I don't know, however, what the longevity of this business is. But according to Andy in this video here, people flew from all around the world, people who are interested in trading in NFTs, to come eat a hamburger here, because this represents one of the first times that NFTs cross from the virtual into the real world. And I assume that that will be happening more and more in the future. AI art. So art generated with the assistance of artificial intelligence. It's been going on for a while, and there have been various levels of success of it. It's usually procedural and rule-based, using mathematical patterns, algorithms. In the case of this image here from Midjourney, Furry Road, what you would do is you enter in verbal commands, and then the program generates images from your verbal commands. What I think is interesting is this means with people that have really good verbal acumen can now be great visual artists. And of course, it threatens those only that have visual acumen on their side, and certainly professional illustrators. But I, as a subversive myself, am always interested in art or anything else that compromises the people who spend a lot of money on school and professional services to make the professional equivalent in their field. I like it when those things get subverted. It's just kind of part of who I am. We're looking at Mad Burt Furry Road. So this is a hybrid of Muppets and the Mad Max movie Fury Road. And the computer generated this image from those verbal commands. Pretty awesome. Short history of AI art. So it begins with Harold Cohen in the 1960s. He makes a program named Aaron, and Aaron uses a symbolic rule approach to generate technical images. He codes the computer to make drawings, which he would then finish and paint over them. Since then, in 2014, for example, generative adversarial networks, GANs, are used by AI artists that use a generator to create new images and a discriminator to decide which images are considered successful. The bottom image, the very successful Deep Dream, released by Google in 2015, uses convolutional neural network to find and enhance patterns in images via algorithmic pareidolia, and thus creating deliberately over-processed images. And, for example, the probably photograph of the dog that has turned into fractal dogs and other dogs and eyeballs and looks like a over-the-top psychedelic dream. And pretty cool stuff. Text-to-image model art recently include OpenAI's DALL-E, released a series of images in 2021 using keywords and configurable parameters such as an artistic style, which could be used in key phrases like in the style of Salvador Dali as a prompt. And then that aesthetic could then be added to other words to make images. In the left, Jason M., a game designer, won first place in the Emerging Artist Division Digital Art and Digitally Manipulated Photography category at the Colorado State Art Fair Fine Arts Competition. His winning image, Space Opera Theater, was made with Midjourney, an artificial intelligence that can produce images on its own. So here we are looking at the winning image, and this image was thought to be at least done by an artist who is using Photoshop or something to manipulate the artwork. No, the artist has done nothing other than give some verbal commands, and the machine has done everything. So I remember when analog artists and airbrush artists were quite upset that Photoshop could do their job cheaper and easier and faster. And now we're seeing that those artists are now becoming somewhat obsolete. And so the hubris that comes with being a highly trained technical artist has been subverted here. And all bets are off in terms of how this operates in the future. So to get Midjourney to generate an image, you begin with a prompt. Imagine with a prompt / imagine, and then whatever it is you'd like Midjourney to generate. So for example, typing / imagine the night sky full of fireworks will cause Midjourney to generate that. And you can see from the top and bottom images, the images that it creates. You know, if we're just talking about pure technical skill here and the heightened realism that Midjourney can do, it's pretty much better than most digital artists or certainly any analog painters can do. And again, that's very threatening to those artists. So you can start by typing, you can modify, and it seems best if you separate information with commas. So for example, the input / imagine the night sky full of fireworks, hyper-realist, would give you hyper-realist images. I think the best theorist talking and working in these programs right now is Lev Manovich. Lev Manovich is one of the early theorists and also a user of digital art himself. He has taught at various universities around the world. And I personally would recommend following his Instagram and keep up with his experiments because he's always been ahead of the curve in thinking about digital art. Also, I would suggest that, try Midjourney, see what it's like. However, Stable Diffusion is free. Midjourney costs some money. You have to join Discord to use Midjourney. But Stable Diffusion is free, and it also, I don't think the images it makes is sophisticated as Midjourney is, but you can see in the style of Van Gogh here, and of course what you see here was one of the things over the last year that we had been noticing in Midjourney and Stable Diffusion. It can do things very realistically, but it's terrible at counting fingers. It seems as if the latest version of Midjourney has solved much of the finger problems. The U.S. Copyright Office has got into this very early, saying that AI art cannot be copyrighted. So your verbal commands that are made by a machine have no copyright protection. And we'll see in the future what that kind of authorship protection, if it continues to be that way. And the last thing that I want to talk about is ChatGPT, an artificial intelligence chatbot developed by OpenAI and released in November 2022. It is built on top of the 3.5 and the ChatGPT 4 foundational large language models, LLMs, has been fine-tuned and approached to transfer learning using both supervised and reinforcement learning techniques. Its propensity to confidently provide factually incorrect responses has been identified as a significant drawback. And algorithms that are used to detect cheating in college, like Turnitin, also have programs that can detect the use of ChatGPT because of the type of language and the way that ChatGPT speaks. It has a tendency to make itself very easy to pick up that it's not a human being. So this program has been refined. However, there is still many problems, including hallucinations in the text generators, where it outright fabricates answers. And it also doesn't make citations very well. It makes general sweeping statements that are done, I think, in the most politically correct way, but it very rarely backs up its grand statements. It reminds me, as a teacher for 30 years, it reminds me of a student who hasn't read the required material and is trying to fake it anyway by being super confident in the grand gestures that it's making. You know, it's C- to F work at its best. I saw an article recently provocatively stating that GPT AI might passively be able to read people's thoughts using things like CAT scans and other technology. They are finding ways to make chat to kind of get into maybe what people are thinking about. I would be very careful about taking this too seriously, like now the machine's going to be able to read your thoughts. Still based on the laws of computing, based on the laws of probability, and again, I think more cartoonish and more strange than effective. Some examples of ChatGPT writing I found in the Instagram of art critic Matt Gleason, who has shown us how Chat wrote a review of a show that he went to, and it did a decent in terms of not being too specific, and yet another time he does it and it does a pretty terrible job. So what I would say to any of you out there who are planning on using ChatGPT for your legal briefs, for your research papers, realize that the probability of failure on this is probably 98%. I've heard recently through a lawyer friend of a lawyer who tried to do his legal brief, and it was found out by the judge pretty quickly, who admonished him. And I hope whoever he was defending used that in whatever appeal in the case that he is surely about to lose, that his lawyer was completely incompetent. All right. So for the extra credit in this class, and again, maybe in the future this might be a required assignment, I would like to get your opinion on AI-made art, good, bad, or otherwise. A term that a coach of mine once used, good, bad, or otherwise. I don't think he invented that, but that was where I learned that term. I want you to upload a NFT or AI-made art, describe it, describe why you chose it, and describe if this art, the reason you chose it, has anything to do with media or something that you already knew in general. I would like for you to try to make some AI art, and I would like you to do this through Stable Diffusion because it's free. Again, it's image making quality, not quite as good as Midjourney. And then I want you to use ChatGPT and have ChatGPT write a one-page paper about our class. Post the result and then comment on how effective or ineffective the result is to you. And that will end our class. Thank you if you've taken the class with me, for going through the class with me. I do like to teach these classes live, much more so than doing it here on a monologue. I love seeing your faces and your responses as I go over things. I love fielding questions from you rather than just blathering on and on and on, which I have done for 14 lectures and about 20 hours worth of material. However, the economy of teaching, I guess it's easier than driving on the 405, and it does allow me to be a couple places at once. And I thank you for those of you who have taken my class, and I wish you well in the future. I'll never know your faces. But again, I really hope that I get to know you a little bit by how you have written and approached the class. Bye, everybody. Take care.